great job, guys. Oh my God.
Oh,
So
that was
interesting.
so good. That might be like my favorite episode.
Podcast.
Aeneid is a podcast that explores all kinds of bookish things, and that can include some pretty adult content. So please be aware that some of this content will be not safe for work or for young ears, and be careful who's listening when you are. Welcome back to Aeneid. I'm Amy Matthews, and I'm here this week with Justina Ashman,
Hi.
Payton Hogan,
Hi.
and you may notice two extra special guests this month as we talk about zines. We have Gemma Neall and Shona Edwards.
Hello.
And before we start, I want to acknowledge we're meeting on Ghana land today. I am down here by Karawura Parry in Tantania, Adelaide, and I'd like to pay my respects to elders past and present and to extend those respects to any First Nations people listening today. I also want to acknowledge that this place is a country of powerful storytelling, and that we're always really thrilled to be on this country as we talk about stories and knowledge through storytelling. Now, this month I'm out of my comfort zone yet again this year, and we're talking about zines. So we introduced you to zines last week. Next week, we'll be doing our interview with Georgina Rex of Georgina Rex Comics, who also has made a lot of zines. But today we have two special guests, and I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself because I got a short intro for both of you. And one thing that I am hung up on is that you're both classicists. I need to know more about that. And then you're both zine makers, so I need to know more about that. And I am dying to ask you all about the ways you kind of run zine workshops for academics and the way it intersects with being academics.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe we'll start with you, Gemma. Do you want to tell us about, the classicist stuff I just want to ask you everything about. So tell us all about you.
Yeah, sure. So, I came to classics obviously from a background of creative writing. I had done, that's how I met Justina. I was an undergrad with Justina at Flinders. And I then did a couple other things. I did some like acting and playwriting for a couple of years, and then I should probably finish a degree, and went back to uni. And this is the dumbest way I could have gotten into something. I thought, what would kind of annoy my mother the most? And I said to her, we were out to lunch, and I was like, I think I might learn Latin. And she went, why? And so she's like, can you not learn a useful language? No.
It's useful for reading stuff from the past.
Yeah.
And
it's cool.
It's very cool.
It's a cool brag.
It is. It's a bizarre brag to do when you're in a workplace or whatever, and people are like, why did you do that?
My brother went to a school which still taught Latin. They still had to do Latin.
Fewer now. Yeah.
I also did. I
Did you really? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. My partner's father is a theologian, and he speaks all kinds of random languages like ancient Greek, Aramaic, Latin. Awesome. It's incredible. I'm just like, wow, your brain. I can't even learn French. So
also,
yeah.
People might remember Gemma, who was there but not there spiritually but not physically for the After Dark episode about Seven Brides for
Yes.
The best episode
she let
ever.
me talk her ear off. I was like on the phone for her for like hours at a time, getting her to explain Latin myths and Latin texts to me.
To be fair to us, being on the phone for hours at a time is not unusual.
Aww.
So I did my undergrad in kind of classics more broadly. I find, and I feel kind of bad saying this, I'm not a historian, and I find history quite kind of dull. For all that, it is a big part of classics. But I couldn't tell you much about the ancient Rome apart from like the period of maybe 20 years in which Ovid was writing.
And the fact that men think about it all the time.
Yeah,
they do. It is very much their Roman Empire. Yeah,
I also think Gemma's version of not knowing much about ancient Rome is really different to
It's
what
relative.
a non-classicist version.
And Gemma, we had osmosis. We were picking stuff up.
Yeah, I still probably couldn't tell you what a lot of people think I should know. yeah, and I did my honours. Kind of started to look at Ovid, who had been suggested by my supervisor, who was an ancient Roman poet. My honours was all about his exile poetry, which I'm still really obsessed with. He was exiled from Rome in 8 CE, and he died in exile, and he wrote a lot of really interesting poetry in his time in exile.
I really only know about him from the David Malouf book, which we had to, I used to teach. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because I think because that's about his exile as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, his exile is such a really interesting period because we don't know what he was exiled for. It's he says himself Carmen et Era, a poem and an era, and we know most likely what the poem is, which is Ars Amatoria, which is essentially like a pickup guide, and kind of against like Augustus's morality laws at the time.
It was improper.
It was
wild.
improper.
Considering everything else they were getting up to, but anyway.
Yeah. But we don't know what the era was, and I became really obsessed during my honours year, trying to find ways in which that kind of experience of exile seemed to be revising some of his earlier stuff. He did a lot of revisions of the Metamorphoses, which is his big kind of magnum opus, in exile that we believe, and there was a lot of emphasis on crimes of sight, seeing something through no fault of your own, and then you were kind of punished for it. So I became really fascinated with that. And I kind of went to do the masters with this idea that Ovid, and I really like Ovid, but he is a massive egoist, and he is the world's first Ovid scholar. And my initial idea for my master's was to just kind of be like, yeah, Ovid is trying to recreate his own legacy and like control it. And so I came in, went to do that. Supervisor had different plans. So we did something else, which was...
God damn it. None of my students would do that for me. I don't feel like any of you would adjust your projects for me. If I said Justina,
I would.
Project.
I did the reverse to Amy. I was like, Amy, we're changing.
Okay, Justina.
I was still really like the idea was what I was largely interested in is translation theories, looking at how we translate ancient poetry into contemporary verse, and so the idea that my supervisor had was to look at how we translate the episodes of kind of sexual violence within the Metamorphoses, of which there are many, and how they've been translated over the years. I made a very elaborate, I called it my SAD spreadsheet, where I recorded every instance. And I had like 5 different translations from, I think the earliest one was Rolf Humphreys, who was 1955. And then the most recent one came out while I was writing my thesis, like 2022. And so I looked at the translation of sexual violence within the Metamorphoses and became just really fascinated with translation theory and accessibility of translation. Because not a lot of people know Latin, the translations can kind of say whatever they like, and people will just go, "Oh,
must be true."
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And it's kind of, I mean, I did go. I had a chance to teach it to a group of kind of teach some of my thesis to a group of high school students who did study Latin. It was a group of all boys, which I was very nervous about, teenage boys, and I showed them some of the passages that I had been working on, the translations, and then the Latin, and they could read the Latin. And so they looked at it, and then they looked at the translations, and I said, "What do you notice?" And one of them just goes, "They're lying to them." And he was like, "What?"
That's what we want.
It was a great reaction.
Yeah.
So that was kind of where I'm at with my classics. So I finished my master's last year before.
Yeah. I was thinking of you because I just recently read Iliad, Emily Wilson's translation, and I was like, I remember you talking about Ovid and that being your favorite, which one would you recommend starting with? We can cut this out of the episode, but I just selfishly want to know.
Shona and I are going to have different answers, I reckon.
Yeah.
I think I know what Shona's answer will be. I genuinely think The Met is a fantastic one to start with because it's his most known work, so it's really accessible. There are tons of translations. Stephanie McCarter's translation in 2022 is beautiful and really well done. And it is where most of our understanding of modern myths come from. There are a lot of myths in there that we didn't really have from other sources, things like Narcissus and Echo. That is from Ovid. Pygmalion, that's from Ovid.
I'm beginning to think we should set Ovid next year for a book of the month and have you guys back.
Oh my God.
You could pair it with some Shakespeare, you could pair it with whichever. So, heaps of opportunity.
Of the ancient world.
That would be cool.
Book pairing for a book of the month is fun.
That's so cool.
I feel like if we get Shona's Ovid recommendation, that'll pivot also into Shona's classics.
Yeah, we can hear about your background.
Yeah. Yeah, no, as soon as you said that, I was like, Gemma and I were like, oh, we know each other's answers. Yeah, no, so look, I'll say, hang on, first time caller, long time listener. Before you get to Ovid. But yeah, no, I work on earlier Ovid, which is really interesting because that actually is useful for me and Gemma talking about Ovid when he's older, just before his death, and Ovid when he's younger. I'm a master's candidate at Adelaide University. I work on, I guess kind of broadly, it is Latin love elegy from that imperial era in Rome. So not just Ovid, also got like, who else we have? Well, Horace is there doing some other stuff. Propertius, Gallus, you've got these guys, lesser known, well-known names than Ovid. So I mainly work on Ovid's Heroides, which means the heroines. It's an earlier work, and it's all of the women from myth and history who he's imagining as they get abandoned by the heroes. So, you've read the Iliad, Payton, it's Achilles, well, who is left behind for Achilles. Wait, I'm blanking on her name, Gemma. What's her name?
Briseis, isn't it?
Briseis. And hey, I say that because I did not read Song of Achilles. So I am not but Briseis gets a letter in the Heroides, or if you got the Odyssey, the hero Odysseus or Ulysses, depends on Greek or Roman, his wife Penelope gets left behind. Ovid imagines her writing a letter. So I'm really interested in these women imagining their deaths, basically. But you get abandoned by a man on an island where there's like mythical beasts and all these kinds of things going on. And some of these women are 14-year-old girls, really. And you think, God, I would be terrified. It's pretty reasonable that they're kind of imagining their own deaths. So I'm interested in poetic epitaphs. And my research takes a crip theory, disability-informed approach to that poetry and its translation. And I really think we know ourselves better and we know each other better if we take moments like that where you are facing your own death pretty seriously. And sometimes they're not taken seriously in the scholarship. So I think sometimes we can, like Gemma was saying, you read things written by men from Oxford and Cambridge.
In the 1950s.
Yeah, and you think, and they just go, oh, that silly woman, she's just crying, it's ridiculous. And you think, what the hell are you talking about? This, obviously we empathize with these women. So I'm, really trying to encourage that.
It sounds like Ovid gave them more thought than...
It's shocking how much attention I think he paid to psychology. And people's dynamics. I mean, he's, like Gemma said, one of the books is like a pickup artist book. So hey, he can do it all. I think he does it tongue in cheek, but
he's already my hero.
That's the thing though. Depending on what you start reading with Ovid, it could be a huge shock, and you go, "What the heck is this doing?" Or you think, "Wow, this is like the most powerful writing I've ever read." So it just depends. Excited. Genre can change so much from epic to like silly little love poems.
I was just thinking, have you guys ever done a zine about Ovid? Given your fascination,
many options. I mean, we'll get into it, I guess. But I think there's lots of different ways you can take this. And the thing about classics, which I guess we might also get into, is we've already touched on. is everything that came between us and classics. So like all of the people in the Middle Ages reading those books, and then like Shakespeare reading those books, and then all the way up to now. So you could do zines on a lot. Different things. And Gemma and I, hey, we're on our zine production. We're on a run.
I know you have a work in progress zine about Ovid, Gemma.
I do, yeah. I have a couple. I mean, in terms of like classics more broadly, and I'm just because I've got my pile of zines here. My stupidest zine is this one here, which is called Senatus Populus Quae Romanos, and the idea is if it were ancient Rome instead of ancient Rome, like if Remus won instead of Romulus, which has a really long form joke that only I find funny about. Because my idea, and I'm telling this joke because I think it's funny. That, and I've actually given this in talks, and again, nobody laughs, but my idea is Julia Roberts has Ovid to thank for her career. And this is because, well, she starred in Pretty Women, which I do think is arguably what kind of catapulted her, which is an adaptation of My Fair Lady, which itself is an adaptation of George Bernard Shaw's play Pygmalion, which is itself an adaptation of Ovid's Pygmalion.
Oh,
so,
classics matters.
Yeah. It's still present.
Yeah. So I used to, when I would give talks and trying to explain why classics matters and why Ovid matters, I would say, well, depending on like how you feel about Julia Roberts, you either have him to thank or blame her career. But I have been working like a more serious version of an Ovid zine that I've kind of had on the back burner for a long time was a zine that has the translations of these different passages from Ovid, and then translations as and then the Latin underneath, and you put cellophane over and actually see the different.
That's cool.
Yeah, interactive.
Because the big thing about the Metamorphoses is there is transformation, and most of the women who experience sexual violence are then transformed physically, which is a really good representation. So Daphne is one of the most famous ones. She is transformed into a tree, a laurel tree. And so in this, I have a Daphne running away, but she can only be seen when you put the cellophane over, because otherwise all you can see is the tree. I have a draft. It's not got the artwork in it, but the idea is it's because Ovid is big on weaving. It would be a woven zine. So
wow. So what I've noticed just talking about zines the last couple of weeks is that actually zines are pushing the book, right, as an object in a way that publishing just can't usually do.
Yeah,
like
it's so. I think they're just so, like, you can play with forms so much in a zine in a way that you just can't any other kind of format, which and my favorite zines that I've read and kind of consumed are the ones that really make creative use of the format and play the way that they use the pages, kind of the way that the reader interacts with them. I think they're so interesting, and
because the book, it seems like the book has gotten very cemented down to the word, whereas I feel like the zine is not. It's not reduced to the words on the page.
No. Yeah. I'm thinking about do you know Anne Carson's Knox? And she's sort of she wrote classics a little bit, but she's documenting her relationship with her brother, and it's in sort of like a concertina thing that you pull out. So at our university, you've got to do special collections at the library, and you have to sit with it, and you get to pull it out in a big concertina. But how do you can't read that
produce?
Yeah. There's an
think
element of like care.
Part of what is appealing about zines, I think, is the fact that they are not mass produced, that they are handmade. And when you have something like, it's so fascinating, Gemma, listening to you talk about that zine project, because you can see all the ways in which the form of the zine, like its physical form, is shaped by its content. And it's, I mean, you mentioned translating, doing contemporary translations of ancient texts in another way. This is another kind of translation of these texts or adaptation of it. And like, yeah, and in a zine you can use the form to to translate that as well.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I think, I mean, Justina, we know, has a great zine collection. And one of my favorite zines of hers is, and one that really inspired that one was this gorgeous one she has that kind of unravels. And there's a can on one end, and it's like a string
Oh,
follows, and it's like from me to you or something, find it. And I remember when I first opened that one, and I was just kind of, it's risograph as well, so it's beautifully done. I'm pretty sure it was risograph. But I just unraveled it, and then I kind of stared at it for ages because you can see the big picture, but then obviously each individual page is something as well. And it's something that I love about a lot of, story and poetry is when you can see the big picture and the small picture at the same time.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be hard to do in a traditional format. Especially, if it is very large and complex. So being able to actually see it kind of laid out like that was really, really wonderful. And I remember I took a picture of it big and laid out, and then went home and kind of tried to figure out how I could recreate it and do something similar, because I was so obsessed with this idea of being able to have a narrative that wove around.
yeah.
And yeah. And that's why I thought it would work really well for Ovid, because he does so much kind of telling stories within stories and weaving throughout. He's really big in, well, he didn't know what narratology was, but there's a lot of that within it. And everything that he writes, I think, is very self-aware, and it's aware of itself as a piece of literature.
Yeah, which seems to foreground. So I have so many questions. There's so many things I want to ask. The first one though is there, like, it seems to me like it's a form, as you were saying, Shona, about going into the library and pulling it out. Is there like a library of zines where you can go like an art gallery and just explore zines? Because that is something I need in my life, I think.
Yeah. I know that there are a few ones around the place that people have curated. There was somebody I saw who called themselves a radical librarian, which I thought sounded like the coolest job ever, or a radical archivist. I think there are mixed, as far as I can tell in the zine community, there are mixed feelings on kind of collecting them in that manner, because some people really want to keep them quite insular and private, because I think that's kind of part of the zine.
Experience.
Yeah. And I mean, especially, I know there were a lot of people who were trying to kind of collect a lot of historical zine stuff from like 90s subcultures.
Yeah, it's a bit like, I was thinking Flinders Museum of Art has this amazing collection of political posters. Yes. It's that kind of thing of like, of being sort of a moment. Do you want it to disappear? But then that's kind of part of the point of being an ephemeral kind of moment.
Yeah, I think they are very kind of ephemeral in that way. And yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one. I personally would love more zine collections. I think to make them accessible is really important.
Yeah.
And like the physical ones you're talking about, Gemma, like to go to one, because there are like a lot of online archives. I mean, I mean, we're talking about zines capturing a moment. I think that itself is like an archive in a zine. So they really want to archive all these zines, right? And obviously takes care to do it in a particular kind of way, if it's even possible. Sometimes I think you can only do a video of someone using. But there's like, I'm trying to think, madzines.org. Tumblr. There's a lot on Tumblr. And then there was like something that was Pocket Zine Project. Anyway, a lot of this is on Tumblr, which kind of tells you also something about how it's subcultures and it's people in the margins and people preserving the margins.
Yeah.
But like Jim was saying, we need more. So like, I think it's the people who are gonna facilitate that. We can't really leave it to institutions to consider these things valuable.
Yeah, I agree with that. Speaking of that though, the intersection of kind of like institutional knowledge and zine making, as you were both talking about zines, I kept thinking about creative, because we obviously do a lot of creative practice research and praxis, and thinking about how that making, when you talk about translation and layering, that making is so much a part of thinking, that actually you think through your knowledge as you try and embody it. and that zine making seems to me like such a great example of creative praxis.
Oh yeah.
I think so. I think I find that often, and I mean, with academic writing, it's very scary to think about putting words on page because it is so, there's a lot of pressure to have like an element of research behind it that maybe you just, it's a seed of an idea that you're trying to write.
Oh, can I pause there and we unpack that and then come back? Because one thing I think that I've loved about Justina when she brings in the zines is that when people try and write academically, because obviously we're in creative writing, so people writing a novel or poetry, they're fine there. They go off and play. When they write the academic work, there's this implicit sense of criticism.
Oh yeah.
That someone is looking at every word you write and go, that's not right, back that up, justify that. And so I was thinking when you bring zines into it, you're immediately taking away the criticism and moving into a place of play, which is actually where real radical thought happens.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that because you're saying like the criticism from externally, right? That it's like the constraining. Because I actually think of zines as criticism because I think zines are like media about media. It's like, but I mean, they're personal. I think Gemma's describing they're creative, of course, as we're saying. But it's like analysis. That's where the fandom.
So then, what you're saying is you're adopting the role of the authority with instead of being the subject of the authority.
And what Gemma's mentioned, and like what I mean, we talk about this so much, is I think it's providing you freedom of expression, and then going, I actually am, like you say, the knower, the authority, and then you get placed with all of these like big names because you can put names and quotes and things onto the page with yourself. You bring yourself to it. I think these metaphors, like it's the stickiness. You get glue on yourself, but you get your skin cells on the page, or like God knows what other. And so I think like what Gemma's talking about, intimidating feeling. You get a free like a free play space.
I also think like not obviously not all zines are collage, but I really love doing collage and bringing that to zine making. And I think a lot of that collage aesthetic is what people might immediately think of around zines, because there is that handmade cutting and sticking element to it, and that you can place, collage things into different contexts and like juxtapose them next to each other. But I was wondering, Shona, if you feel like talking about this. I don't know if you're planning to make zines out of these collages, but I know you've talked to me before about collage as part of your, I don't know, personal creative practice / research practice /
so that's my entry to zines was through collage, I think, and then sort of extracting that into a zine. So basically it started my master's, I started doing a journal that was collage, and it was that, like we're saying, free space, escape from academia, and that was then making me realize how important it was to bring the personal to the art, but then also to bring the personal to the research, not just because I think it improved my research, to go, okay, move the objective stance aside, being subjective is actually a benefit here. I mean, we get that with, like lived experience, naming your positionality. That's like, of course we understand that. And then actually a survival technique, because that intimidation that Gemma described is like, actually, if I know myself and I feel a bit more confident about who I am because I've journaled and collaged my way through it, then I am a little bit more confident to bring the personal into the academic because, hey, you can't tell me I'm wrong about me, right? So I'll show you, I've got Dido's a character from Virgil's Aeneid. Dido's in hospital, I'm a cancer patient, I'm often in hospital. So that's like an expression thing. But often it would just be like this. It would just be a page, some magazine stuff, quotes from research, and then like what I think. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be good. There is nothing special about what you put on the page. And I mean, I've done a lot of personal zines as well, right? So you kind of doing a little bit of that, and then a little bit of combo. But yeah, that collaging was good practice, I think, for zines, like the principles of, like we're saying, sticking together in different contexts, from different contexts together, but the cutting apart. And like if we want to dream a better future and like a better discipline, like classics, a little bit of a problematic discipline, then we have to be able to rip things apart.
Yeah.
So I think the cutting is so important to what we're doing, right? And like sitting with something and going, okay, I'm reading.
And the individual, like you as the subject being the site of where knowledge is created by bringing all these things together. Like I think the centering of you, that feels really powerful.
Yeah.
I think that's like Gemma's translation is like, it's you speaking, isn't it, Gemma? Through
Because I mean, I guess the whole point of translation is it's always subjective. It's always going to be the translator, which is, I mean, mainly my main kind of takeaway on my thesis was that that's why it's really important to do really detailed translated notes and kind of make it
explain
clear that this is a translation and this is through a specific lens. And I prefaced, and I know Shona has as well, like I prefaced the beginning of my thesis being like, this is entirely from my perspective as like a very privileged white woman living in a first world country who is university educated. I'm not coming from this from any other angle because I can't, because that's not where I'm from. And it just, I think it's so important to then, and I agree with Shona. I feel like a lot of this kind of creative practice, personal creative practice, helps you kind of become more comfortable in acknowledging that and acknowledging that you there is no real, and because classics is also in partly a history kind of based subject, there is that sense that you kind of want to lean towards this
the great arc of history.
Yeah. I was just thinking what I love about you being classicist is so I'm on a non-traditional research output committee that I've been on for forever, and over time we've seen other disciplines, like really diverse disciplines from the health sciences, from all across the universities, moving into non-traditional research outputs and to embracing kind of creativity as a way of thinking through. And I think what you're showing is people have always been doing it. You know, like I can think of old lecturers of mine in history who used to do lino cuts to think through their ideas, or people who used to, you know, I had an old philosophy professor who used to be in all the plays, like would sign up to do all the Shakespearean plays, but like all these ways that academics have always used the arts to think through their work.
I mean, I think about it as like, you know, okay, you've got the old scholar, he's got a beard, he's like sipping tea in the library, and he reads a poem and he cries, right? And then he has to go to the conference, and you don't cry at the conference. And you don't show the tears on the page, right? I think something that collage and zines can show is like what happened while you were making it. It is always already there, right? I mean, that's like Donna Haraway's The God Trick, right? Like it is a false stance of objectivity. It's never really true. So if we're just cutting through that, you know, that was already always happening.
Yeah, I feel like we need to bring everything that you've said to all of us who are right now writing our theses or exegeses. Because now I'm like, oh, if I just do a collage, then I will feel less anxious about writing.
You can put it in your appendices too.
And the thing is, I'm trying to think, like you've got like an 8-page. This is a Hag dictionary. This is just like a joke that I have with my friends, like with the dictionary. You've got an 8-page zine. So if you've got an idea, it has to fit in like 8 little squares or little rectangles. Oh my God, my shapes. So you can really reduce down, like, well, what am I thinking? Like, what's the most important part of what I'm trying to say? And then that could be the way you rationalize a conference paper. Like you've got a whole thesis. How do you turn that into a conference paper? Okay, we'll try just putting it on one single page.
In the zine workshop that I ran for our creative writing HDR cohort, and I've also, I've run it a couple of times now. I always bring up, and this will be like a little bingo card for long-time listeners of the pod, I always bring up Jack Halberstam's Queer Art of Failure, because I feel like reading that, which I read thanks to Millie, really opened my mind about what kinds of things can be research and can be knowledge making, and all the ways in which, if we think of academic research, or we think about knowledge as something that's super structured and institutionalized and separated from ourselves or from play or from these like alternative ways of knowing and knowledge creation, then we're really cutting off entire rich areas and rich veins for expression and research and
I
learning.
think it's like what doesn't fit is what we're doing, and then you got to wonder why doesn't it fit.
And who set up that system?
Yeah.
I just keep thinking like your brain doesn't do essays or think in essays, but your brain collages. Like your brain does zine making. Like that's how you think.
Yeah. The interesting thing about like I think about like the classical poetry is so densely referential that it is kind of like words as collage. But the really, really interesting thing is like what happens if you don't get the references? Doesn't matter. I mean, you're still looking at a page and you're making an interpretation. I mean, I've stuck things down and then gone, wait, that actually is more relevant than I thought because I didn't realize the context of something that I stuck down. So I think that's why, collage has this sort of interesting, I guess we're doing death of the author. Say, you're the one, you are the point of reception, and then you are the point of interpretation every time you look at it, and it's going to be different for everyone.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because classics as a discipline is so rooted in tradition as well, which is why it can be really tricky to bring this into your actual research. I mean, like doing a cross-discipline study for classics in postgraduate where we were doesn't happen.
Yeah. They don't know how to market if it's cross-discipline.
No, they don't. And
look, we catch it. We've been doing it for decades and we still it's still tricky.
Yeah. Even kind of really clear, obvious ones like history or English were really hesitant because they just didn't know how to do it. And when I was, I wanted to go forward and do a PhD and trying to find, but I was looking to do a PhD that involved creative practice. Trying to find somebody who the classics and the creative practice is really tricky. Because it's such a discipline that is so rooted in tradition. And
I have had 3 different disciplines. There was a literary scholar, a philosopher, and a historian, and all 3 of them they've all like in separate times. These 3 scholars have told me they cannot appear on panels with me or co-publish with me because it would ruin their reputation.
Yeah.
So there is such a prejudice against creative practice. Yeah.
And I think, I mean, this is why I found zines really kind of, I guess, freeing, especially in the aftermath of doing my thesis. It was something that I didn't have to create in a traditional format. And I could really play around because I'd been so rooted in creating in traditional accepted academic formats for so long that I felt like I've said to Justina several times when I finished, I said, I don't think I know write or read anymore.
So let's just do images. I mean, you're basically doing an edit. You're doing a fan edit, but on the page.
And then build that back up and build in and pull in those things again. And zines can be so silly and so...
It's flexing a muscle almost.
It is. It's flexing a creative muscle. Most of my zines are genuinely quite dumb. Like dumb in that way. I just like to be silly with them. I'm not that interested in having a serious thought ever. But then they do have really kind of, I guess, serious elements to them. Not all of them, I will preface. Some of them are just dumb, but there are ones that I guess are, I showed one of them to my therapist once and he got a bit, he was like,
I did that once. Deeply personal sometimes too.
Yeah, it is. And even silly stuff is.
Yeah, I think it's a space that allows you to be simultaneously silly with all kinds of other kinds of, emotions and experiences and things. Like, definitely relate to being really silly, but it's also like, but it is that serious at the same time.
I mean, I'm thinking about, obviously there are like, so we talked about like it being subcultures that seized onto zines. So you've got like the Riot Grrrls, it's really big in punk music to do zines. But oh my gosh, I'm thinking like the Trekkies, the Spockanalia. Huge. But you've also got like there's a zine series that I was reading about it's a Ronald Reagan fan club zine. And you better believe that they ran that ship like the Navy until they interviewed the man himself. So it's like a weird thing where that zine became almost direct political representation, and sort of citizen. It's like bizarre that this like little pamphlet basically can do that, but because it's engagement and then it's a ticket into community, it can be power as well, which is a bit kind of it's exciting, but it can be intimidating as well.
It's interesting that you mentioned Spock and Star Trek, because last month we looked at queer sci-fi, and we looked at fan fiction, our origins of queer, a lot of the Spock and Kirk.
The slash fiction.
The original.
Yeah, and I feel like there's an intersection here with the zine cultures and with fanzines and how people, were finding community and also sharing and distributing material amongst themselves that would not have found a mainstream.
And people would be posting like empty envelopes off and then receive things back.
Okay, so what's striking me here too is I'm thinking about art forms, because you mentioned punk as well, but think about visual art, zines, music, theatre. There's something about the written word in the book that got very conservative and bogged down compared to a lot of other art forms.
Yeah, and it's money. I think it's money.
And I mean, the zine, the zine is really the opposite of anything with funding. Because that's not what that's for.
Wait, and you don't do it for profit, even when you buy and sell. That's just a gesture of like goodwill, really.
And so much, I feel like, of how zines are made and shared is so community-based, whether it's at zine fairs or with postal swaps or through or even just through like specific events and communities, like having a zine at a at a concert, for example, or at a various different events. There's something so about connecting with other people while also being really personal and able to be super niche and individualized, but recognizing something in that interaction.
Yeah. People love to read each other's personal zines, by the way. So it's sort of like, should I make the zine? It's just a trauma dump. Yeah, make the zine. People want to read it.
I think, the good rule of thumb is always to make the zine.
Make the zine.
Make the zine.
That might be the title. I think we found our title for today. Make the zine.
Well, and let's get the listeners, make your zines. I mean, I'd also want to like add the things that can be really, like I mentioned, political power, but like functional about those zines, like Justina said, like at a concert, right? So it's not just that it's archiving that moment. It could also be like the set list. And like I've got ones that I do that are my reading groups, like reading list. So like just the books. And then like you can pass that on to someone and it's like, hey, we curated that list. That's worth something. But I'm thinking of, I saw recently 404 Media making zines about ice tactics. So that's like urgently functional. Here's this little zine and it's like more comfortable than just a flyer that's gonna like be kind of loose or like stuck in your fridge and forgotten. It's like a little book, and there's like a sense of security and privacy with that, but it contains urgently like necessary information.
And then also the security of knowing that the person has it, whereas like if you shared that sort of information online, it could find the wrong people, but also it could find the whole world except for the person that it needs to find.
Yes. The FBI agent on the phone cannot read the zine.
Yeah.
Why a lot of people have the argument against kind of mass archives of zines as well, when they are doing things that are subversive and you do want them to get to specific audiences. You want that they only get to specific audiences.
It's like open and closed at the same time. Like I guess all fandom stuff is like that too. It's like you're welcome to enter, but here are the sort of norms.
Yeah. You would have to set up almost like a respectful practice of archiving scenes.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm really lucky. One of the ways I got into zines actually was to be friends with and work around people who are doing research on collage as feminist practice. So my good friend Lily Atkinson is doing her PhD in Adelaide on collage, feminist collage. One of my favorite quotes that she says is that collage locates the researcher as uniquely responsible to and for their research. So it's sort of like I put it on the page, like I'm responsible for, the resonances of what I put there. But also like I'm doing, there's a care to it, which is like both describing how I think collage and zines are a response. They're responsive. They give you something to respond to. Yeah, I really like that element, but I think, yeah, like you said, Payton, there's something that's a bit more like lawful around care and response. That you do because it's community, I think. That's the thing.
And I do think that as well when zine with kind of zine fairs and exchanging your works in that way, there is you get that kind of close relationship with people who you are actually handing your work to in a way that you don't always if you're trying to do kind of a larger publication type of thing, and you can have that discussion. Some of my favorite zines that I've got, and I am very much a baby zinester in terms of like going to zine fairs, but they were swaps because swaps are such a big part of it, and it was really kind of fun to look, to go up and go, okay, well, here's what I have. What, can we swap something? And it felt like I was like 6 again and had Pokemon cards. Which
did people ever say no?
I hadn't experienced anybody saying no. I think people are just excited to share theirs.
Yeah.
I think it's like, you could be rude, right? Like, don't read the whole thing and then don't buy it.
Yeah.
I actually feel like I really don't mind when people read the whole thing and don't buy it. I actually think that's pretty acceptable to do at a zine fair. I think with swaps, sometimes people will have certain zines that they're happy to swap and certain zines that they aren't, because there are some zines that maybe take a lot more time and effort and money to make.
Yeah.
So swapping something that maybe took you like hours to fold
for something that's a little bit not your style.
Yeah. So they might have like a little 8-page zines that they're like, okay, I want to swap, but I'll swap one of these. Rather than people being about no swaps, I feel like sometimes, though occasionally they are, and it's really up to each individual, and I don't think anything is a no-go in terms of what you want to do with your own zines and art making.
Gemma, could you show some of your like more complicated ones? Because you've got some stuff that's interestingly folded.
Yeah.
And then you've got ones that you've done I will say, Gemma, this is all your own art, isn't it? It's like you are doing all of this, every piece. It's not like magazine chop and paste, although I respect that as well.
Yes,
that is still art, but yes.
I do really love collage. I think the thing that I sometimes find a little bit limiting in collage is and this is a problem with a lot of things that I have a very specific idea in my head of how I would like it to look.
Yeah.
And so if I can't find a corresponding image that is working, I will just give up. So my solution is to just make a lot of my own. So this one is probably my most complex fold. This is the third zine I ever made, which is it's just called This Zine is an Excuse to Tell You About My Cat Wilfred, and it is. And so it's folded in a way that's called a Victorian love letter. So the idea is that it's kind of an envelope and a thing in itself. So it folds out. It has kind of the story of how I got my cat, how he is very spoilt, how I made him a castle and he pooped in it. So now he doesn't have it. And how, because he's a Christmas baby, how all of Christmas has now become Wilfmas and everybody gets Wilfmas cards because I don't. And so it folds out to literally just a portrait of my cat.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
It's so joyful.
Yeah, it is. I think I saw the format and I really loved the form because it's so interesting as just a form, and I have no chill about my cat. Tina can attest. He's my son. I birthed him. I say that in this.
That shows I think there's an element with zines of okay, cool, someone can now look up the Victorian love letter. Like it's like you're not copying, you're like building upon. It's like, hey, I heard this cool idea. I want you to do it. Like, I want you to try it. It's very giving as a community
Yeah.
and like a space.
Especially when so many paper crafts these days would be dying art forms. Like,
Oh,
who
yeah.
is going to maintain all of these different practices if not zine makers?
Well, yeah, I think one of my favorite things that has kind of happened in the last few years is a lot of my friends and I have been really into kind of posting letters. And this is in part because it's really fun to receive mail. And a dear friend of myself and Justina is Isabel, and she posts zines each season.
Oh, that's
So they have, I've got a couple here, and they have a bingo for us to complete. So all of our friends have bingo to complete for the season of stuff that's kind of seasonal for us to do as a challenge. This one's summer, and I am a little bit ashamed I didn't really do much of.
So what's on the list?
There are some stuff I did do. There are things like pet 3 dogs. Talk shit after
Can I pet the same dog 3 times, or does it have to be 3 different dogs?
It had to be 3 different dogs. I think that was this is because we have quite competitive. So then they are like, okay, well, what does this? Can I like? And we have to be like, no. But there were, so I did some of the things, but there were things like skinny dipping, which I'm not doing.
Can I do that in my shower? Does that count?
Interactive element to zines. That's so useful.
And she has a beautiful kind of like reflection on the season inside, and really love the artwork. And I mean, she even did and I won't show the inside of this one, but this is a dating zine that she did for.
That's a secret.
Valentine's. Yeah, and so it was just she reached out to some friends and was like, "Does anybody, is anyone sick of the apps?" And so we had our friends put a little profile together. The only one I'll show because I did have mine in there, and I'm already on here. But it's literally, it's just a little kind of summary.
Oh, I love it.
And then she handed those out to people and was like, date my friends.
That is amazing. Modern dating.
I think that's a great example of zine making that genuinely isn't tied at all to an exchange of money. Like these zines aren't sold, they're distributed amongst friends.
Yeah.
And it is about creating a sense of connection between people. But it's still, like zines can exist in so many different contexts. Whether you sell them at zine fairs or not, like there are lots of people who make zines or might even make things that are zine adjacent without realizing they're making zines that might never have been to a zine fair before, or might never be interested in like distributing their work outside of like a specific group of people, or there's a lot of ways. I think part of what's so appealing about zines is that it's so open, both in terms of form, in terms of production, like what you bring to it in terms of like how you make them, and then how you sell them or don't sell them. It's like a very anything goes sort of
absolutely
setup. I mean, I found some of them even like, I mean, I guess what we've described is actually like a therapeutic effect in several of these contexts. I have one that's I mean, I mentioned I'm a cancer patient. I have one where this is from a collage too. So it's called To Whom, as in to whom it may concern. Oh my God, my phone. And basically I am redacting my own medical documentation. And then I'm putting it in a kind of collage. And then this way it's like, okay, you're reclaiming it, sure. It's also a little bit inspired by Nat Harkin's archival poet.
Oh my goodness, yeah, amazing.
Yeah, and I think like the personal archive is such a useful like bucket to grab from. And then it's sort of loosely structured like a letter, so it ends with kind regards, yours sincerely. So things kind of become poetry. I find often things become poetry.
And that's where Nat's work is really interesting, because it's like, what is the line between visual art? What is the line between poetry? Where do where does like the conscious idea stop and the art begin? Because I love the way she took her grandmother's letters and wove them into baskets.
Oh yeah.
So gorgeous. In order to read the archive, you have to then get into the tactile experience.
Spend time doing that.
It's amazing, so beautiful. But also the idea that there's kind of in the redactions, there is an emotional affect, right, with Nat's work and your work there, that you can't access the emotion directly. Like she's not putting her trauma
No, yeah.
She's not, it's her private trauma. You don't get to take that. But at the same time, there's a gesture of here is an emotion that is mine. You get to witness the presence of emotion without actually having access to my emotion.
Yeah. I think of it as sort of like reading over the shoulder.
Yeah.
That it's like you're there, you're with them, but it's like you're by invitation.
Yeah.
And I suppose as well, when you are doing the redacting, you're doing a lot of reading of it yourself. So you are re-experiencing it.
And sometimes having never read, and this is the first time I'm reading, and I've got a little bit of a purpose in making a zine that I wouldn't have otherwise.
That's quite nice as well. Like I think sometimes a lot of zine work kind of forces you to face stuff about why you are doing certain practices or why you are kind of acting in certain
process.
ways. Yeah. I mean, some of the zines, and this is an objectively stupid zine, but I really enjoyed making it because it was quite reflective. And this is my most recent zine, which is called I watched every episode of MASH in 2 months.
I was horrified. I showed my kid MASH thinking, oh, this would be interesting. First episode.
Sad.
First episode is a sexual assault. Are you kidding me? And it's like played for laughs.
Yeah. It's
I had no memory of that.
It's a really weird show because it is in a lot of ways really progressive. And still is really progressive in a lot of ways, but in a lot of other ways, horrified.
My memory was of it being really progressive, and then I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, I feel like in the later series, when like Alan Alda got really involved in the writing, it evolved in a different way. But I essentially this thing kind of came about. So the beginning of last year, my New Year's resolution was to watch every episode of MASH in order, and I got kind of, I guess, really into it and did it all by the end of February.
Wow.
Yeah, I was supposed to be preparing for a conference, so that is
that makes it.
Where that happened.
That's why.
Yeah. Did you find that you started coming out with dry one-liners when you were talking to people?
No, I wish I had. I think I'm not as witty as Alan Alda, and not nearly as charming to pull off some of the witticisms. But a lot of it, I mean, this is a really text-heavy zine because I wanted to process why I became so obsessed with it and why it meant so much to me. And I think there was a lot of this idea of I gotta find a place where I actually wrote it because like I couldn't process it. And it was like MASH tells you that it's okay to laugh in the face of hopelessness because at the very least you might, confuse those who wish you harm. And it was a really kind of, because I just kind of come to the end of doing my thesis and I was really feeling quite lost. I was in a horrid office job and I didn't know what to do with my time because I'd never had so much free time in my adult life studying, and I just needed something to have to kind of focus on. So I really enjoyed writing it because it was a reflexive exercise and going, why did I fasten so hard onto this one thing, and I became so obsessed with Radar.
I love Radar and his teddy bear
so much. And so but then also it is quite silly because the back of it folds out to a
nice,
which I thought was necessary for such a zine. And it is, it's a really stupid zine that actually had me forced me to look inside, which I wasn't expecting because I just thought it would be funny to make a zine about how you can watch 11 series of a show.
But yeah, that personal element is a little bit fraught when we bring it back to academia, because I guess we've been talking about our academia going into the zines. Would we bring the zines into academia? Sometimes, I mean, we get good reception a lot of the time too. I'm just thinking about Amy. You said like getting a bit the scandal of creative practice is not being really appreciated. But sometimes we talk at conferences and people go, this is great. I'm excited.
People love it. Yeah. I think it's more as the final output.
Yes.
People get nervous. And I think it is really about this kind of knowledge that it's all a house of cards, right? That if you pull one away, where are the lines between authority and lack of authority? And it's about institutions and gravitas and a whole bunch of stuff that is so tangled up that people don't really want to look into. Because I mean, my experience is a lot of us, are quite progressive up to a point, and then there's a desire to protect the institution or the discipline. Like discipline policing is a huge thing that you run into all the time, and fear. And yet actually a lot of people are very interdisciplinary. You scratch their undergraduate experiences and they're very interdisciplinary.
I mean, the workshops Gemma and I have run have been like deliberately cross-discipline. I mean, that we ran workshops was it last year? Yeah. That it was all of the three major then universities, and it was postgrads and honor students, but it was across like humanities and social sciences, and there was like a huge exchange in that process, and like the stickiness, we were getting our stickiness on each other and getting our idea and going like, well, hang on, why is this so problematic in classics? But it's like the obvious step one for social sciences. And yeah, so we had a really good time. I think it was really productive, but we were quite lucky. We had the support of the Alliance of Gender Scholars, which is under the umbrella of the Fay Gale Centre for Gender Research. So, having those allies a little bit up was essential to get us the support and the time that you need. And often that's money, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing. I mean, obviously, doing zines on a personal level is quite cheap. It's arguably pretty free. But when you are trying to run a workshop, you want to have the supplies and do that. And then that became a bit of a funding and then cost.
I remember in the zine workshop I ran for our creative writing cohort, due to many different things like illnesses and such, a lot of people had to Zoom in, and I ran it as a hybrid workshop, which it's difficult when you bring all these physical materials to craft with. But the beauty of zines is that if you have a piece of paper and like a writing utensil, you can make a zine. And even then, some might argue you don't need a writing utensil and you don't need a piece of paper. You can make it about something else. But it's like, because of the flexibility of the form, it doesn't need it. Like, I think attempts to put boundaries on it always will ultimately fail, because it's feels like a creative practice that's inherently pushing back against the idea that there needs to be boundaries at all.
Yeah, and even when they ask for outcomes, right? Like we can squig a little bit and go, okay, well, yeah, we got the interdisciplinary support, we got like we really thought about our research in a reflective manner, and I'm going to turn a conference paper into a zine. Like, okay, there's like a product. It's like it's the way that the institution will ask for outcomes. If they want, if you accept support, is kind of difficult. But I think the flexibility of zines, at least we could wrangle it a little bit in this instance. But because we're postgrads, I think we had a little bit of freedom because we were postgrads,
and because you're working with other postgrads who do tend to be a lot more open to a lot of that as well. I mean, I remember Shona, both of us being at a conference a couple of years ago, and we saw this fantastic paper, and they were talking about having wanted to make, they did ultimately run out of time, but they had planned on making zines as handouts for their conference paper.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and classics is pretty rigid with handouts.
Right? And I was just blown away by that as an idea, because I was like, yes, I want a zine fair at a conference. I want to go and do research, and I can collect, because sometimes you see these papers and you think, and you have so many thoughts that you want to process about them, but you've got to go to the next paper, and then and I try to be a good note taker, but sometimes the notes aren't what you thought they were later, and so being able to have something like that was like, here's why it matters. And it's not just with classics a lot, if you do get papers like handouts at conferences, it's just quotes.
It's like abstract to the presentation.
The idea of having like a zine of somebody, because that particular paper I thought was incredible and I really enjoyed it, and then I was like, I could have had a zine of this.
And it's like a piece, you get to take it.
That would have been, and I think that's kind of what got me thinking about how they would work in an academic context, of this idea of like actually being able to share your work. And I mean, I know there's like a competition that was going when I was in masters, of like the 3-minute thesis, the idea of like condensing.
Yeah, it's still going. It's still around.
And I think that's a really interesting idea, but I do think that's not easy to do in just words necessarily. But I think zine, like as a form, a zine can kind of lend itself to that, because you can spend the time on it. You can have multiple ways of folding it or opening it up. I mean, like another one of my odd form zines is literally a chatterbox.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah, so this is called Frog of Fortune, and each when you open it up, it's a different frog that gives you a fortune.
Love it.
So good.
I think that one also came up last week because I had everyone rummage through my zine.
Yeah. We found that one.
Credit to Justina for all of the alliterative frogs. And my favorite is the frog of forget about it. It'll probably be fine. Just don't think about it. Shout out for that one because I didn't think of that and I was like, you genius. I mean, I remember thinking about how fun it would be to make a chatterbox of the dumb questions you get asked when you tell somebody that you're doing postgraduate.
That'd be so good. And you could go,
yeah,
funny you should say that.
Ask questions.
And then every single one falls up to, so what kind of job does that leave?
Yeah, something like that where it would be, I just think it's a really playful way to engage with why you're doing what you're doing.
Yes.
And I'm sure you guys have it as well. A lot of people want to know why because they can't fathom of any kind of higher education as being anything other than
terminal point, like where are you going?
And what a great way to break down barriers between academia and, you know, the typical layperson. Like I'm thinking not only of the way that people can be quite judgmental about the humanities, but also that a lot of researchers, it's always the elephant in the room, like who is our research for? Who are we doing this for? Who is going to receive this? Is it actually going to have any impact on
value of it? There's that word value all the time.
The value. But how do you make it accessible and how do you communicate your research to people? A zine feels like the perfect way to do that because it's so distilled and accessible.
I feel like zines invite people in whilst also being unapologetically niche. It's like you don't have to be necessarily for a general audience. You can be for a specific audience, but it's still something that is accessible. Anyone can pick it up and engage with it.
Yeah.
And I think something Shona said stuck with me, and I think you've demonstrated it, Gemma, by showing us is the process is the point, right? Is that it doesn't have to be the end point or the end result or a product. The process of doing it is what's valuable about it.
Yeah, I've had scenes where I make them and then I never read them again. And like my friends might pick them up and I'm like, what's in there? I never really remember because the point, I don't, you know, sometimes maybe it's like it was so intensely of that moment, I don't really want to touch that moment again. Or it doesn't matter, it was nothing. But all great pride in like real art masterpieces as well. So, you know, it can be anything.
Yeah,
love it.
And there's such a variance in like the amount of effort, like a zine. Like I have zines that have literally taken me like 5 minutes to make. I mean, this one took me like 4 months, and
wow.
I worked on it for hours, and was really like that one was quite intensely personal to me. And then by far the more popular one was this one that took me 5 minutes. That was
I have to say, both of you, when you show your work, you're such artists. Like just as visual artists, really impressive.
Yeah, it's a really, I mean, it is something that kind of allowed me to create again after having such rigid restrictions placed on me. I mean, after I studied creative writing, I didn't write creatively for a very long time as well. I think I really struggled with the academic format of that being kind of marked, and so I just stopped. But I really enjoy the creative process, and I needed something that I that wasn't marked anymore.
Do you know what's funny is because the PhD is so in your individual work, right? I found like collaborating with people. We were just collaborating this morning on an article, and it's the minute I'm co-writing with other people, that sense of play and boundarylessness and not caring that anyone's looking at it, but just the process comes back alive for me.
Yeah. That's accessibility again, right? It's like why do these things alone as the you know master of your own universe in some office? It's like, no, of course you're out there exploring with people. I'm also thinking Gemma said about like overcoming the difficulties of institutions. I'm thinking COVID and how many people are struggling to read.
Yeah.
Like just getting out of that funk even years later. I think zines are like quick, short, and easy in terms of literacy as well. I'm just thinking that could be a tool because otherwise you just get stumped, you hit the wall.
It is really, it's been really helpful for that. And I mean, it's interesting, Annie, what you said about having that collaboration, like kind of light that fire again and having that feel more joyful and play.
Because you seem to be describing that with community. It's like it's that same thing, right? As having a friend who'll mail you the bingo. It's like it's a shared act.
Yeah, and I mean, my most enjoyable experiences in both academic work and zine stuff is when I've done it with others. And Shona and I have been very fortunate to, I say Shona and Shona very much spearheading our Australasian Ovidian Society, which is just a big Australian Ovid fan club for nerds.
Fan clubs. We need fan clubs. and make the zine for the fan club. Yeah.
I feel like, all of this from the community side of it and the creative side of it, it's all comes back to that making and that process and the interactivity. And I feel like I could talk to you guys forever. Like, I don't know.
We are out of time, however.
We could go for hours, but yeah, oh my gosh.
I'm totally up for having you back for an Ovid book month, though.
Yeah.
I would enjoy that.
With the classical receptions, we can get into it.
I'm always down to talk about Ovid. You can't pay me to stop.
All right, that might be next year. We'll work out what month we do that next year then.
Yeah.
Cool. I should wrap up. I'm hosting.
I was like,
you said to say goodbye, and then I just gave up. I surrendered, Justina. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Zine Month has been fun so far, and as we mentioned at the top of the episode, we're actually going to be making our own zines for the end of the month. So instead of a book club, we're going to be sharing what we make. We're actually all getting together in the next week to make our zines. Justina's going to bring stuff and guide us. But we're also challenging anyone who's listening to make a zine too and share it with us. So we will talk more about that in the next couple of weeks. But thank you for joining us, Gemma and Shona. As Justina said, we could talk to you for hours, and hopefully we have you back again soon to talk more. Maybe when we do Ovid, we can also make Ovid zines.
Oh, wonderful. So thank you for having us.
No, it's been a pleasure. And thanks for listening, everyone. We will see you next week where we're going to talk to Georgina Rex and keep talking zines. So we'll see you next week. Amy And is hosted by Amy Matthews, Abby Guy, Payton Hogan, Justina Ashman, Harry Stewart, and Millie Heffernan. This podcast is recorded on Gardenland with music by Anthony Wigmore and Mass Mysteria. Our logos and branding are designed by Abby Guy. This episode was edited by Payton Hogan.